on this week's Rated G.
I've always been interested in drawing ever since I was a little kid, especially just like doing cartoons. My method to things has always been kind of like this quick production type thing. In the act of drawing live caricatures, you have people watching you, and then there's kind of like this ceremonial thing where you like present the drawing to them and you get to see their reaction. It's funny, I actually feel like I never use pencil.
Wow, that's impressive, man.
Yeah.
Seriously. What is up, everyone? Welcome to another special edition to the Rated G podcast. I am your host, G. Terado. For those of you who have been here before, welcome back and thank you for your continued support. And everybody else who hasn't been here before, welcome to the show. Here on the podcast, I like to sit down with other local artists, actually sometimes from around across the world, but generally I like to feature other artists, creatives, small business owners to have a conversation, and while doing so I try to help promote their brand or their artwork or whatever it is that they are pursuing. So and this is, I try to keep it fun. We go in all different directions, so if you enjoy this type of content, please don't hesitate to hit that follow, subscribe button, like, share, comment if you have any thoughts or questions you'd like to ask, and be sure to check out the show descriptions below. That way, if you want to follow either myself or my guest, all of our links will be there in the description, social media, main websites. All right, and let's get after it. So joining me for the first time is, of course, a fellow artist. He is a caricature artist here in Richmond, Virginia. And I'm gonna be honest, I can't say how long we've known each other so far, but we've been following each other for quite some time. So it's nice to actually have a solid sit down, because when we do talk, it is at events. So it's nice to have these sit downs with these artists. So please welcome for the first time, Matt Schmidt.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure, man. I just always have like the sudden urge, especially if I meet someone online and I know they're local and I see they're doing some of the events that I'm doing, but just because I'm preoccupied and busy, I don't get to actually visit, your table. It's nice to finally get you on here and really talk about art and also shoot the shit, because some people, like we are just talking before, some people kind of look at this as like a formal sit down or interview, they call it. Like I anytime someone calls it an interview, I actually kind of cringe a little bit, because I'm like, that's too formal for me. I'm
Yeah.
not like that. So like, if
Yeah.
there was any takeaway from our first engagement in person, is that like I'm just throwing f-bombs and like, it's just I'm very informal but very personable, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
It makes things more real.
exactly, and like I'm trying to think, if there's been any like if there's been any like awkward moments between me and the guests, and I'm sure there have been, usually because of the delay with Zoom, but I'm just trying to think, like, I don't know, like, people like raw shit nowadays. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Everything can be photoshopped and edited so much that,
yeah.
it's always good to have something just raw. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And yeah, so um yeah, please tell me, like, are you originally from Richmond?
No, I'm not. So I uh I grew up outside Philadelphia.
Oh,
Um, and I moved down to Richmond to go to VCU 2006. And I studied communication arts there for 4 years, graduated, and then went back to Philadelphia. But I've been in Richmond for about 2 years now.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Interesting. So almost as long as I've been my wife, me and my wife. I don't know if we've talked about that before, but I don't think I actually knew you're from Philly. I went to school in Philly.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I feel like we're close in age, maybe a couple years apart. I'm gonna be 37 soon. You don't have to
Okay.
say your age, but you almost there or
Yeah. June I'll be 37. So
okay. Oh fuck yeah. Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, because yeah, when you say you went, you started going to VCU in 2006, I'm like, I think I started going to the Art Institute of Philadelphia in like either 2006 or 2007. So
Okay. Nice.
yeah. Except the school doesn't exist in Philly anymore.
Oh yeah. Is that wasn't there like a there's like a branch of art institutes or something?
Yeah,
That the same
there's
thing?
many
And
around here.
yeah, I remember talking to a few people about that where it was like something with like credits and just the whole system. Was it like a scam or something? Or it just
Yeah,
didn't work?
I mean, like, yeah, I guess so. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I never dove deep into like what exactly happened, but yeah, a lot of students, yeah, they were scammed. Um, and then it's just weird because like like I have a shit ton of loans, but I kind of just put that on myself also. Like, I mean, the classes were like it was an expensive school, but
Hmm.
I'm gonna say at least for me, like I was fucking around a lot. Like I just like I'm the youngest out of four in my family, and I was the only one that actually went away for school. So at that time, like mentally, I was like in party mode. Like I did just enough to get by, honestly. Like I just was not in the right mindset. So there was a lot of fuckery during my my time at the Art Institute. So I so I don't say like I got scammed. I just think, I did just enough to get a degree there. But yeah, a lot of students were claiming, they were getting scammed. I don't know if there was like there was also a like a protest, like a teachers protest, and I don't know if that was like any correlation to that, but there was like a whole thing with that. But yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore because
Yeah.
I don't where in Philly were you at?
I grew up in like 30 minutes outside Philly,
Okay,
Valley Forge, King of Prussia, that area.
okay. So yeah, because the our school was mainly in Center City, right
Yeah.
off Chestnut Street. Um,
Yeah.
and it did have like like multiple buildings for like one building for culinary arts and and then just like a spread of, of dorms. But yeah, I think they turned the main school, the main building into I don't even know if it's still this, but the last time I remember it turned into like a shopping mall or something, almost like Liberty Place, because the school was right across from Liberty Place. If that rings a bell, it's kind of like a
Okay. Yeah.
small mall.
I actually I think it was a little bit after college. I took a few little what are they called? Elective courses
Mhm.
there. One was I think I did a class about children's illustration. Um, and I actually was a little dissatisfied about the class as well. It was
At,
one of those like adult classes.
at the Art Institute.
I think so. I think
Oh,
that was it.
that sounds because that course that sounds new to me. I mean, then it like this, like the whole thing with the school, like that happened like when that was like at least a few years, almost a handful of years after I graduated. So like that whole shit didn't happen. Like it wasn't happening. Like that didn't go down when I was still there. That happened a few years after I graduated. So like I don't even know what they were teaching then. Like who knows? But I
Yeah.
mean, that's unfortunate. I mean, there is another school. There's U of Arts there, and that was kind of like the rival school for us. Um,
Wait, maybe I am
was it
confusing
U of Arts? Because they're
one.
really close to each other. Like,
U of Arts is that on Broad Street?
yes.
Okay, maybe I'm sorry. I
So U of Arts was disappointing.
okay. Well, it was just that one class that
Yeah,
I
no, no, I'm
wasn't
kidding.
so much.
Of
But
course, yeah, no, yeah. So yeah, because the U of R's, they also had animation over there. So we've had I can only think of one teacher and at the top of my head that taught classes animation classes at the Institute and at U of Arts. And we used to always like just be like, ah, fuck you arts. For some reason we were competitive, but then like it wasn't like shit. I don't even think like I knew if I was associating with any UArts students.
right, right.
But like in class, we were like, yeah, fuck those kids.
But I mean, what is there to like compete about? Like, it's not like you guys had a Super Bowl or anything, right?
No, it's just exactly. It's just like who like it was just like which school had better animators, like better artists, and
Yeah.
it's just it was dumb. Um, but anyway, sorry, we went on a little rant on that. But for the audience, would you mind just sharing and describing your background in the arts?
Yeah. So, as I said, I went to VCU for communication arts. I've always been interested in drawing ever since I was a little kid, and especially just like doing cartoons. Uh, my method to things has always been just kind of like this quick production type thing. Um, and so I feel like cartoons is kind of what that embodies. Um, and yeah, so I took a few like I guess private lessons when I was in high school for like painting and stuff, which was good. It was kind of helped build my arsenal of different mediums and things like that. Um, but then yeah, at VCU, um, we learned kind of a mix of graphic design and illustration, primarily illustration. Um, and then yeah, that's kind of my educational background.
Okay. Have you ever like at the time have you considered maybe trying to actually it'd probably be really expensive to you would have to move out there. But I was gonna say like in regards to like cartooning, it has like Kubert School of was it cartooning and animation or something Kubert Art School. Are you familiar with that school in New York? Had that ever come to mind? Oh, because I was like I don't want to say the main school, but that was like a big school for my oldest brother is an animator as well. So like that was the school he went to for cartooning and comics and kind of it just sounded very in line with what you were learning at the time as well. So I was just curious if that school ever came across your mind. Um
Yeah,
so yeah, you've been just pursuing the arts your whole life pretty much like myself. Yeah.
yeah. I I consider myself to be very lucky too because I know there's a lot of other artists who are kind of sidetracked either financially or whatever happens in their life that they can't pursue what they consider their passion. And so I feel like I've I'm very happy in my position at least right now where I'm enjoying what I do and I think it's kind of an art of the art in the way of not letting that kind of not letting the external portions of life kind of take that passion down. So
Mm. Yeah. And like is this your job? I don't want to call it a job, but like do you have a day job as well that you work?
um not right now. I've kind of had a mix of jobs kind of in between, but this has been my most consistent thing.
Okay.
Uh so I guess after I graduated VCU, I got a job working at the Philadelphia Zoo, doing caricatures,
Oh, nice.
and uh, and I knew I was good at doing that stuff. It was an interest that I had ever since I was in high school. Um, and I I did that for like 3 summers, but I didn't know that that profession was something that could kind of blossom. Um, just working with the other artists there, uh, I slowly learned about like different. There's a few party websites online, and you can post your work there, and that has been um, kind of my main consistent thing that I've been doing for about 12 years, doing
Man,
caricatures.
that's awesome, and I respect that consistency. Because I've I've had a couple of conversations with others about when you know other artists, like let's say like they started with you, they've been doing it, and then because of whatever reason, whether it's life or just another job or distractions, whatever, it it like they had potential but never got to fully harness that and stay on that path. And yeah, it's kind of rare when you no, that's not the right word. I want to say rare, but at least for me, in terms of talking to all these artists for the last 3 years, it's like, yeah, it's been sort of into like three groups where there's like maybe a handful that have been pursuing the arts like all their life. Then you got some that kind of does it on a hobby or just started doing it recently. And then others that used to do and then don't do it anymore. But they're rarely on. They're rarely on the podcast. But anyway,
Yeah, yeah,
that's besides the point. But like they're or it's like it's interesting, right? But at least I will say like a lot of people here in Richmond, um, a lot of artists are like kind of I don't want to just getting into it, but like at least when I'm talking to them and I ask like, yeah, how long have you been painting or whatever? It's it's like since COVID or they did go to school here, but it's like I'm just gonna say it's kind of it's not as often I hear someone say, yeah, I've been doing this for like 12 years, like
yeah,
which is like I get yeah, I mean, I've been, for me, like I've been strong since like childhood, which I do believe I should be a lot better. But I did mention I was fucking around a lot during during school.
it
And
happens.
I've had like moments of sidetraction of like trying, like I got into music, so I was self-teaching and taking some lessons from friends on how to play guitar and yada yada yada. So but I've always prided myself, even though the art institute doesn't exist, I still have my animation degree, even though I don't animate. But I still hold on just to the mere fact that I still draw. I'm still producing, so like I'm making a living creating art. So like that's
Yeah,
like the win there. But going back to my main point, it's just like, yeah, we've been doing this for so long, you know. So it's
yeah. It definitely, yeah, it definitely is a good point. Um, I was watching some of your earlier videos on your channel, and the little intro that you have, those animations. Like, what program did you use to create those little cartoons?
the
Do you remember?
cartoons.
Um, it's on your introduction one. There's like, I guess some guy eating or something like that. There's a guy with a beard.
Oh, okay, I was like, wait, what are you referring? Oh, so that was my old animation assignments. So like, yeah, I would say if not all those clips, yeah, those clips were from my demo reel. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, so
Is
that's
that
yeah,
is that like flash animation or
yeah, dude.
yeah.
Because like at the time, right, going back to college, like Flash was just starting to blow up. And like 3D Studio Max for 3D animation and 3D modeling, like that stuff was like starting to get like well, I won't say just getting started, but like I don't know, like I don't hear anyone talk about it nowadays. So, but that
No.
was that was getting big in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to say because it's 2023 now.
The funny thing is, I take pride in like I also like animation and I'm trying to do more of it. I have like a After Effects.
Mm.
Um, but I remember like when I was in middle school, um, uh, I used to do like these little GIF animations. So I would actually go into like Microsoft Paint and do
Oh,
each frame.
yeah.
And I had probably a good like 15 animations.
Oh
They
man.
were all so dumb, but it was enjoyable just seeing like, that final product and it loop over and over again.
Oh
So
yeah, 100%. I mean, I'll make a strong statement right now. Like when you're just experimenting and just like doing stuff like that, right? Just creating your own fun little animation. Like they shouldn't be serious. Like there should be no like real, I mean, like real meaning. Like it should just be plain and fun. And yeah, stupid, but stupid is part of the fun. Yeah, like I don't know.
exactly.
Like that's my belief personally. Like it's like if I hear someone say like, yeah, my first animation for fun was about fucking I don't know religion or some shit. I'll be like, dude, what? Just like making a I don't know a stick figure, like doing something like. So that's just me. But yeah, I used to fuck around with with that paint uh software. I think right,
Mhm.
what Microsoft Paint was that what it's called?
Yeah, Microsoft Paint.
Yeah, man.
MS
Um,
Paint.
I keep telling myself that like I would like to get back into animation as well. And I say that the hesitance is stemmed from just like, oh, am I ready to be humbled again? Because I know I have to. I'm just the way my brain operates. I'm gonna go back to basics. Like the first thing I'm gonna animate when I do eventually is it's gonna be a bouncing ball. Like that was one of the first assignments
Yeah.
was animating a bouncing ball, and then maybe hopefully one day get to the walk cycle and all that jazz. But I'm really gonna have to like face my ego and be humbled horribly. But if you have an iPad and you have um Procreate, they have an animation um thing there, software there. So
Oh,
which I
to
you know
connect them. Okay.
yeah, I've yet to use it. Like I really haven't even tried anything on it yet, but I did download this app for my iPad. It's another animation app. I can't remember at the moment, but yeah, I'm gonna try the Procreate thing eventually. But yeah, I always just say, man, one day just try to animate something again. See if you can just make one smooth motion.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like I don't think I've taken any actual courses on animation for like that in that type of, I guess, study, like
Mhm.
doing a bouncing ball and
Right.
like the how to make that look real. I that's something you really kind of have to tune into.
Well, when
Um
you say an animation, are you thinking like just morphing shapes and like stuff like that? Like just
yeah, because I think I mean, I guess that's just the whole observation and execution thing. But yeah, because I mean, the program that I have is
you
just
said
After Effects.
yeah, so that's like motion graphics, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
At least that's
mean,
what I was taught it was used for mainly is motion graphics. But you
yeah.
can do amazing
I,
things with it.
yeah, I right now I'm just doing very like simple things like, moving things back and forth and up and down.
Mhm.
Just very plain, simple things, but it
Right.
makes it somewhat captivating.
Oh yeah, I
So
mean, and this it's like like you're saying, during your younger years, like you're adding more tools to your arsenal. So motion graphics is a great thing to add on to your skill set for sure. Like that's why I love editing. Like that was part of I guess like that's the thing about the takeaways from the Art Institute, which is no longer existent. But I still very much enjoy editing footage and syncing things to music and stuff. And if I had the sources, I would probably dive a little bit into like some motion graphics or, like if I was able to afford Adobe Suite, I would probably fuck around with it a little bit more. But yeah, it's awesome to like to just like keep experimenting. Like you're still very much, even though like you've sort of like you've like mastered your thing, your craft, but you're still willing to learn other new skills, so I like to always say we are still very much students of the arts. We're always learning something, always wanting to learn something new to add on to our skills.
Yeah. Um, I I think, you know, putting I think the amount of things that you can create with those programs, Adobe is now like monthly subscriptions. Did you
Oh,
know
is
that?
it? Nah, man, I'm so out of I'm so out of touch. But how much
Yeah.
is it? I'm curious if you don't mind sharing.
Um, it's about $50 a month.
And it's like that includes everything.
I'm not exactly sure. I
Okay.
only have, I think I have like five or six programs.
That's still good.
I think there's a tier system. Um, and I don't know if it's like a package or whatever, but
Yeah.
you get Adobe Creative Cloud. And so I have After Effects, Illustrator, Photoshop, uh, some some 3D program, which I have not opened yet. Um, and then, Adobe Reader and stuff like that. But I think for me, it's been worth investing in it because the amount of things that you can kind of produce for that and then eventually make up the money for it is worth it.
Yeah. Hmm.
And they have like little tutorials inside along with like stock footage and stuff like that. It's very resourceful.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I just been outside of that whole thing just because at the time I just never afforded it or was able to afford it, and then I at one point I was heavily using Illustrator when I was doing some more graphic design for freelance work. And
Mhm.
after that job passed, like I stopped using my Photoshop, and I actually kind of like go went full, like I just went full on backwards and just went back to traditional mediums. And then once I realized how much more active I was with that, I was just like, yeah, like Adobe was just draining money out of my account. So I'm like, I might as well just kind of like unsubscribe and whatever. When the time comes, I'm sure I'll invest in on it when when it's time is right, and perhaps when I can afford it. But I would definitely agree that it has very helpful tools. My only skepticism is with its involvement with AI art.
What do you mean by its involvement?
Huh?
What do you mean by its involvement?
Uh, I think shit. I don't know which software in the Adobe suite, but one of those programs, like you can essentially just create AI art.
Okay.
And that's where I'm kind of like, I mean, we can dive into that later a little bit deeper, but like I kind of like I there is a line for me with AI art. Um, but so yeah, just because there was an article I read where an author was being sued because they used AI art, which I guess was done through Adobe, or they had some a partnership with Adobe or something involving Adobe. And the cover art, because with AI, it does what they call data scrapping.
Yeah.
So amongst all of that data, whatever billions of data they're going through, it actually included like a partial of a signature of like another artist. So
Oh,
yeah.
so
So
weird.
that's why I was like, and like what are the odds? Because it goes through so much data to create this artwork. So, but that's where I'm like, mm, I mean, and again, like I'll pick your brain about it later, but I'll just say right now, it's like it's how AI art, if we're gonna just stick with the art, it's how it's used is like my thing. It's like, how are you using the art? Because if you're trying to use it to make profit, that's the line for me. Um, but we'll get back into that later because I wanna
Yeah.
give you the opportunity to talk more about your craft. So I apologize for going on that rant.
No, I well, for one, I'd say I agree with that. Um, I think that there is a misuse of technology, and that's one of the things where it can be helpful, but also you don't want to make things too messy. Technology can make things real messy real
Yeah,
fast.
exactly. Like I always say, is if as long as you're responsible with it, like you know, it's like a moral thing, really. It's like I just, again, speaking on behalf of myself, it's like I wouldn't feel good if I was trying to sell art, AI art, you know, or like try to enter AI art at a exhibit, like an art contest or anything like that. Like I wouldn't feel good about it because I know that like that wasn't made by my own hands, whether it was on paper or on the iPad. Like I didn't make that myself, so I'm not gonna try to sell it. So that again, yeah, I just think it's a moral standpoint, like
Yeah,
where someone stands on that. And I always say, teach their own, of course.
yeah. I mean,
um,
imagine like I just think that's really funny that you said like their signature came up as such like a personal, stamp. And then just imagine just like, a piece of art with like 100 signatures and like what can you do with that? It's just it becomes ridiculous. There's no order to it. It just becomes, as I said, like very, very messy. So
yeah, it's certainly messy, and yeah, yeah. If you wanna expand on that later, we can definitely revisit
okay.
that. But
Yeah.
in the meantime, let's get back into your craft, my friend, because you are very talented. You got skills. I'm gonna
Thank you.
I don't like complimenting artists that they're just talented because I do believe there's talent and then there's skill and there's also both. So I'm just addressing like you have both. You are very talented and you got skills. Skills that kills.
I appreciate it. Thank
um,
you.
but yeah, you've been so consistent with the caricature artistry. Um, what was the thing that like sparked the influence or the inspiration for that?
Um, I guess are you saying that like kind of the momentum that has
Yeah,
been
like what was the thing? It was like, oh, like I really like if it's just a matter of like, these are just really fun. I love creating like warping the certain features and stuff like that's just it's such a fun creative process for you that you're like this is like my favorite thing to do and in terms of art and I'm gonna roll with it.
yeah, I think so for one thing, I feel like caricatures, and there's other arts that do this, but I think drawing caricatures is also not just a physical art, but it's also kind of a performance art as well. Um, I because in the act of drawing live caricatures, you have people watching you doing the art live, and then there's kind of like almost this ceremonial thing where you like present the drawing to them or present the drawing to the people and you get to see their reaction, which has not always been 100% for me, but that's kind of the humbling thing where it's like, you know what, sometimes my art doesn't work with people, and that's okay.
I would even say like that could absolutely be a factor. But I also say in addition, like it could be like you see this where the individual, the client's uh security is like or like their self-esteem or whatever. Like if if someone is like rather insecure about their physical features for whatever reason being, and they're like, it's a caricature artist, it's fun, and then you never know like what's gonna come out of it. So, you know,
Yeah.
but that, I guess that is the thrill of it, right? It's just like, what are they gonna say once this thing turns over?
Yeah. I I would like to say like because I started doing retail, it wasn't, like custom work from my studio. Uh it's I've always kind of had that sense of being more reserved. Um, you know, like starting from a theme park where things are sellable. And it's like I would say there's kind of a happy medium where I can use my artistic talents to kind of exaggerate things, but there's also like kind of a pullback where it's like it's not I don't want to my art, I don't want to offend people. And
Right.
it's
You
not
don't make it
supposed to
too
make
goofy if,
yeah. There's of course there's other artists who push that limit, and hopefully their customers realize that that's the connection.
Mhm.
um but I've always seen it as like I'm not there to offend you. I'm here to you know share what I can do and hopefully make you laugh. So
Right. Yeah, because at the end of the day, you just, that's the, I guess, if it's okay to say, the reward is like the laughter, the oh my God, and just like enjoying it for what it is, as opposed to like, yo, what the fuck, man?
yeah, it's I'd like to say that like so for the 12 years that I've been drawing, maybe I can probably count on my two hands, less than 10, that I would have interactions that would be like awkward or uh, even hostile.
Really?
um, yeah, it's which I think is a good thing. I feel like my artwork is um, and it also comes off as like that type of engagement where it's like I kind of prepare the person if they're not ready for something, if they're not, if they want kind of like a generic portrait, I'll do that. you know it's all in making their expectations meet. So um yeah, I've so like I just came back from uh the Danville, Virginia county fair, which was about like a week long, doing caricatures there. And I was working with another artist, and um, like our styles are different, but his style is kind of more like cookie cutter. Like everyone kind of looks generally the same, and people would gravitate towards that because it's like, I don't want something too extreme, um, and people are happy with that. So
When you say cookie cutter, do you mean like it's a he?
yeah,
This other artist.
yeah.
Does he like use the same set of features to exaggerate? Like it's always cheekbones and foreheads or something like that?
Um, I guess I could say that there's just not that much exaggeration.
Okay.
Um, there's kind of like such a uh, I guess what's the opposite of exaggerating?
I mean,
Like
like it's just not like it's not goofy because
yeah,
I was gonna bring up an artist that I follow on Instagram. Now I don't particularly call him a caricature artist. He's kind of like David Malan art is his thing. Are you familiar with the name David Malan?
it sounds familiar.
Because like he does portraits, like he does a lot of there's a lot of hatching and cross hatching style in there.
Mhm.
But he kind of does these portraits almost, it's like right in the middle of like portraiture art and caricature, because some features are exaggerated in a way like just like the head shape might just be a little bit elongated, but then it's like it's still very much portrait-esque. Like you can tell exactly who it is. Like as far as like the head being a little bit longer or whatever, like it's like the cheekbones aren't popping out, the lips aren't huge, like it's not overly exaggerated. It's just like some parts are just a little elongated or something, if that makes sense. Um,
Yeah.
but so that's what like is that does that sound like does that align with what the other artist was doing, something along that line?
Yeah. There's an interesting, I guess you could call it like science or application to uh doing caricatures, because I feel like most artists would agree that likeness of the person is the most important.
Mm,
Um, it's not about your style or how much you exaggerate, but just a general likeness is important. Um, and I feel like yeah, there's kind of it's I don't know, it's one of those blurred line things where when you get when you have an artist who is more reserved um, in their exaggeration, you kind of have to. I mean, some people you know, take like a Lego figure where it's just, eyes and a mouth.
yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's, a bald person or whatever. Or if you put on hair, it's like, oh, I know that person who has hair. There's a likeness to it, but it's not, you don't know exactly who it is.
Mm,
Um, so it's really pushing those things and testing your limits on how well you can define that person.
okay, interesting. Are you uh are you familiar with the comedic actor um Kevin Nealon? He's like in all of the
Yeah,
Adam Sandler movies. So
yeah.
are you aware that, I mean, I would imagine you are aware, but he's also like a caricature portrait artist as well. Did you know that?
I did.
Yeah.
I think there's an episode of him on the Conan O'Brien show or something where he
Okay.
does live caricatures.
Oh
Um,
shit, nice.
and yeah, so there's a an organization called the International Society of Caricature Artists. Um, and I think I don't know what year it was, but Kevin attended one of those conventions, and I feel like he won one of the awards. They have like an award ceremony for best of categories. I think he won something, so that was kind of interesting. That's all I really know about him, but
Oh, okay. Because
yeah,
he recently released a book with all his work, and there's like some stories in there, I guess like involved revolving around the the people that he's illustrated. So, and I've been wanting to get that book for some time, but I think I just was it just this year or maybe last year? Time is almost irrelevant to me now. But
yeah,
I just remember finding that out, and I'm like recently, and I'm like, oh shit, that's like as time is going, it's like I'm just like finding out of like these celebrities, I'll say, are also super talented artists as well, but you just would never know because their stardom had overshadowed it. Like, Jim Carrey's now famously known to be an artist. Brad
yeah.
Pitt, Brad Pitt is an artist also. Like, it's
Oh, does he do paintings? Is it?
I I th-
Right.
I want to say I think he mainly does like sculptures and like sort of like installations. I don't think he actually
Oh,
paints. I mean, he
oh,
might have some paintings, but I think he had his own exhibit earlier this year, I believe, and a lot of it were just large structures and sculptures. But still, it's
oh,
like,
I'll
oh,
have to
who would
check
have
it
fucking
out.
known?
Yeah,
One of the world's hottest men is also an artist.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think as you mentioned earlier, you said that do you still play guitar?
No, and that's like
No.
another thing. Like, I wish I had the sort of like not just time management, but like the energy management to like fit that into my daily schedule.
Yeah.
Um, I always, again, like animation, I always kind of leave it out and open. Like one day I'm gonna, when my shit's really together, I'm gonna be able to have some more downtime and just jam out for whatever. Because like sometimes I think like, it'd be cool to get back into music and like maybe produce my own tunes for, again, if I'm animating more stuff and I can just make my own background music or make
Yeah.
some more tunes for the podcast, like whatever. Like again, right? Because like a lot of us artists are, what they call creatives because we're multifaceted. So like trying to use all of my creative tools um to make like the big thing, but yeah, one
Yeah.
day.
I have that as well. It's the same worries and doubts and hopes and inspirations.
I mean, like, I don't want to put the blame on my wife, but like, like making that quality time or having that quality time now with my wife is like, it's such a, I mean, it's always been a precious thing, but like, nowadays it's like, um, once she gets home from work, that's like in my head, like, all right, I got to start wrapping things up and then I kind of turn into like the house husband and then just like spend my quality time with her and just have that family time. So it's like, all right, with my schedule now, like, fuck, where's the guitar playing? And even just like the idea of creating music, like, where does that fit into my schedule? Because, realistically, I usually don't step into my office until sometimes like 12 o'clock, the latest, or actually, no, that's a lie, around 1 o'clock, the latest, because I have all these, house chores and like, your regular morning routines that you got to do. We have cats, so I'm like, whatever, cleaning up after them, some shit. But you know what I mean? It's just like, all right, I kind of have like a full schedule. Like, where am I gonna fit the guitar playing? Do you play an instrument?
Uh, well, I was going to say, what about a guitar serenade
A
to your
guitar.
wife or something?
It's so funny
You
you
know,
said that because
figure it out.
my wife and I were high school sweethearts.
Yeah.
So, we started dating in 2005. And during that time was when I was really like experimenting with music. I was more so I don't want to call myself a musician, but like I was definitely more in that category than being comfortable enough to just call myself an artist. But I've written music for her, like, and I'm talking not just guitar, but lyrics. Like I would try singing for her. I've made a CD for her once.
Oh, that's so
Um,
sweet.
it was sweet, but sorry, I was also on meth when I did
Oh, okay.
it. So just a little fun fact for you.
Yeah.
I meant well though.
Well,
I just was super hyperactive on being able to express my feelings for her. But yeah, under the influence. But yeah, so I have done that, and it would be sweet to bring that element back into our, now into our marriage. Um, but again, then I'm gonna have to like humble myself and be like, all right, I gotta relearn these power chords and like real chords.
right. Begin slow again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because so what was it? Was the last winter we were up in Jersey from seeing family for Christmas, and one of her family on her side, and one of them they had an old acoustic guitar, but you could still play it. It's just it's old, it's a little rusty. So I was dabbling in it a little bit, and yeah, it was certainly a humble experience because I'm trying to remember like the cover songs and stuff that we used to play, and just like even just getting used to picking, with the pick, like just
Yeah.
hitting all those string notes.
Mhm.
Um, and I was like, oh shit, like, yeah, this is hard. This is hard
The,
again.
the
Yeah.
calluses on your fingers and stuff, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, developing all the callus and all that. Like, yeah, so but we'll see. Oh, geez, my cat's like getting in the way. Um, do you have a particular like going back to caricatures? Do you have like is there like a name, like someone that you really admire that also creates caricature art?
Um, I always like to say my inspiration. I I used to read a lot of Mad Magazine,
Mm,
um,
classic.
full of cartoons and a bunch of caricatures. And one of the main artists was Tom Richmond, and I just always admired his work because there was a certain structure to his the way he drew faces, and there was kind of like more of like a portrait essence to his stuff.
Mm.
So I always looked up to him as something I could kind of model for myself. But I remember mentioning that to an artist, like, oh, like, that's someone who I look up to. And he was like, I felt like there was like our styles are not the same. And so I wouldn't describe myself in any way as his style is, because he works with a lot of pencil. I'm just straight pen. Um,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, I would say him. And ever since I started, finding other artists on Instagram, I've kind of picked up some things here and there. Uh, Um, there's always just little things you admire about other artists, and it just comes into your artwork.
Oh yeah, of
Sometimes,
course.
consciously, and sometimes unconsciously. It just kind of happens.
Well, yeah,
Um,
that's the beauty of it, right? You like find these certain, I don't want to call them skills or techniques, right? You find these like techniques and you're like, oh, I like that. Let me see, let me try to implement that into like my thing and see how that plays out, right?
yeah.
Um, Kind of going back to the artist I was talking about. His name is Dave Malan, and like I like his work because I like the way he hatches and cross hatches.
Hmm.
But again, like he just also happens to have actually, I want to attempt something here. I'm gonna try to do a screen share because I want to show you his work real quick. So if you don't mind, just
Does he do a lot of stuff with like pen?
so he does digital and traditional, but like his like digital stuff is so good that it's like you almost can't tell, especially when it's just like black and white sketches.
Hmm.
Unless like you can tell like when it's painted, like you might be able to tell that it's done on Procreate or I don't know if he actually uses Procreate. But when it comes to just sketches to demonstrate like you know, his pencil like the penciling technique, it's like, was that done on Procreate or is that like just cleaned up real nice on paper? Like it's just like so. Let me show you real quick. I'm gonna try to.
His name sounds familiar. I'm
I
sure.
mean, yeah, so like personally, I'm so bad with names, so it's actually kind of surprising I remembered this artist's name because I always say I'm the worst artist because I can never I could just never remember the artist that I actually whose work that I admire and I'm like, oh, what's their name? I just I try to describe their work and I my phrase or my catchphrase on the podcast ironically is I'm bad at words. Just because I'm like I just like my brain starts to scramble trying to describe the work.
I share that trouble as well.
Oh, okay.
If we could bring images out of thin air and show it to you, that'd be great. But it doesn't work that way.
Oh, like when it's in our head, like you.
Yeah, I'm just saying I am I'm okay with words, but I'd
Uh,
love to give you just mental images if I
oh, well, hey man, again, the with the tech that's going, it's up the uprise in technology that we'll be there soon enough.
Oh, okay. I remember the Jaws picture.
This one, yeah.
Um,
But do you see what I meant
yeah.
by sort of like it's I mean, I guess exaggeration wouldn't be the word, but like they're like this is Post Malone right here, but you see how he
Okay.
kind of like I don't know what would
It's
be.
it's a little elongated, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he and that's like I feel like that's just the gist, like that's mainly what he does. Like he just kind of elongates their head a little bit, like this. like you can tell this is Indiana Jones, but like his head's not
Right.
as, you know, long like that. But he like again, it's almost like portrait, but it's just, some parts are elongated. But yeah, that's
It's almost um, it's almost kind of a subtlety like kind of Norman Rockwell, where there's that portrait painterly quality and then just slightly off. So it looks
yeah.
a little weird.
Like I want to say these are probably like again, like I don't know if these are all like if these were all digital because it's so clean and so bright, or maybe they were just scanned really well. Because he just actually put out a book. So like I wouldn't be like with the sketches, I wouldn't be able to tell you if this is actually done on Procreate or done on paper. Uh,
Yeah,
I would just with the paintings, like again, maybe like this woman here, like that gives me a vibe that this was done on Procreate.
yeah,
But
probably.
yeah, so but yeah, this guy's a beast. So I really admire his work again for his all his like hatching work and just even like the rough scribbling lines there. Like I love that. Um but do you by any chance do you also like on Instagram, do you follow We Draw Faces or heard of them? Because they do a lot of caricature work as well. Are you
I
familiar with this page?
no,
Uh,
no.
well, they're not local. They're not from here, but
Okay.
they're. I just started following them. I don't even know when I started following, but this was probably at the state where I was at a phase where I'm gonna stop sharing this. I was just following all art. Like I wanted my page to be just fueled with like art inspiration. So I was just following a bunch of different types of artists, and this was one of them. Um, I mean, they got great work too. I'm always seeing like the reveals. It is cool, like you said, like the performance of it with the caricature art, that reveal. There's like the only way I can sort of relate to that is when I mail commissions to the client, and then I just kind of sit there and wait or check in to see if the package came, and then they'll tell me what they think. But I
Yeah.
wish I was there to like witness it. So that's awesome that yeah, with your line of work, you get to experience that. You can capture that. So yeah, that's really dope.
I was looking at some of your previous videos, and I thought you did have like some video of some of your clients looking at your work. Is that true?
There's a I'm trying to remember which video you might be
It was probably a really old video.
was it of a woman?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I know you're
That
talking.
kind
So
of like a setup.
that was for a friend, and she took that upon herself to like record her reaction. So that was super nice of her.
I love this. Yay! I was kind of hoping that you would send this one, but thank you. You've no idea. I love this so much.
Yeah, shout out to Drini because yeah, it makes great content, right? So and I like as much as I would love to ask clients to be like, hey, if you can, especially if it's a gift, right? It's like, hey,
Yeah.
like can you either get a photo or video reaction? Like that'd be so great. But I always feel gross asking for that. So when she did that, I was like, oh, this is wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always nice to see how people adore your artwork. And yeah, I'd say that's probably tough for you.
I mean, well for me, it's like I just want to know if like you're happy with it. Like,
Yeah.
because there have been a couple of times, um, there have been a couple of times where like I'd finish and mail it out. They would confirm that they got it, but then they wouldn't say so much about anything else. I'm like, oh, like did I miss the mark there
Yeah.
on this one?
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's hard to like not get, insecure about that. But
We can only do so much.
yeah, and like I'm gonna do my best not to go on a tangent about this, but when it comes, because do you do commission art as well?
I do. Yeah.
So like, all right, this is my thing. I always try to like explain it to the client, especially like even like when we're speaking on first hand. Like I always tell them like, look, like when it comes to pricing, I was like, it certainly helps to get as much information and detail about the thing that you want. You know,
Right.
even just like the basics, because people will be like, oh, can you like draw, how much would it cost for uh draw my boyfriend as this
Mhm.
character. Okay, cool. How much would that be? I'm like, all right, well, do you want it full color? Do you like how like what's the size? And also like what's your budget? you know? Like I always like try to clarify that with new clients. Is like it's those things like they absolutely matter. Like it certainly helps to come up with a quote for something like that. It's like, all right, I just need like half body painting of so and so in a 11 by 14. I want it in full color, and my budget is $200 or something. And then you try to meet in the middle, right? Where you both.
Right.
But I'm just saying, from my experience, they just they always leave like those essentials out. Like they just describe what they would like, and then expect it to be easy to come up with an estimate like right then and there. I'm like, oh wait, what size you want? Just
Yeah.
pencil and ink, or do you want paint? I think I need to know, man. Otherwise, you're gonna think I'm overcharging you for something.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, general people don't know. Like it's,
yeah,
I always liken it to, there's a certain like restaurants or shops and stuff where you're ordering a sandwich, and because they're like they do things a certain way, you don't know how to order it or whatever.
yeah,
But it's always helpful to kind of get every detail just so they know what they're getting and they're happy with it.
yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to when you're working on these caricatures, um if would you be able to describe like your personal creative process like as you're approaching it, like as soon as you got like a foundation going, like what's the next thing? Like do you do the eyes first, or do you do the silhouette? Like I don't know, like what's your creative process like when working on a caricature?
Um, so there's a variety of methods out there. Everyone kind of is a little different. Um, Strangely, so every time I start drawing, there's always like a kind of a, when I'm looking at someone's face, there's a quick, you get that quick impression of the features that kind of stand out, like in general. Um, and so I have that in my head. Um, but when I start drawing, I always start with uh, the hairline, which is, I don't know why I started doing that, but it's my foundation top because I want to start like from the top down. That's just how I work. And so, like, once you get the hairline, you do the face shape. And then once you get like that foundation, you work in the features like top down.
Mm, okay. Yeah, I had this so I was doing a live stream on Facebook, and I actually I was talking to somebody about this because they asked. Um and I mean just I'm lefty, so I have a tendency to always like start on the top right of the face. Like so usually like I'll get the foundation in there, the
Mhm.
head, you got the cross, you got the lines to line up where the mouth and the nose are going to be. And then I usually start detailing from the eye, and I'll either work across to the other eye or I'll work my way down to the nose and then the lips to kind of like get my sort of like symmetry down.
Yeah.
Yeah, but because I'm a lefty, like I have to start from the right and work my way towards the left because otherwise I'm gonna smudge everything.
Right. That's always a worry. Yeah.
Yeah. But then, like so like I was asking on that stream, I'm like, does that does that sort of like dilemma or like does that is that a concern for right-handed people? Like do they start on the left side and work like as if they're writing? Because that's the only difference between lefties and righties is like I know when I'm writing, I can smudge shit as I'm going, as I'm writing more. So I'm wondering, as a right-handed person, much like writing for drawing, it's like this is that are you right-handed or left-handed?
I am right-handed. Yes.
Okay. Like so does that what I'm trying to like explain or ask like does that make sense at all? Is
Well,
that
I
like
think um, it's interesting you mentioned that because I think one of the main things is our medium choice is
yeah.
that I used to use just plain old black Sharpie markers, and now I use Crayola black markers. But for the most part, they go on clean, and it's there's no like smearing or anything. So that's not really much of a worry, unless there's I'm outside a lot, so it's like if it's raining outside, there's
Like yeah.
more smudging. But that's an interesting point because I've never really considered that as a danger.
Well, when you work, because like I mean, you're not just a strict caricature artist. Like I've seen your portfolios. Like you got other art in there. So like when you're working on your other art, is that straight ink to paper, or do you do pencil too?
It's funny. I actually feel like I never use pencil.
Wow, that's impressive, man.
Yeah,
Seriously.
yeah. I've always loved using pens because, like as I said, I've always loved doing cartoons, and
Yeah.
that's like kind of the finished uh, product. And I think that's kind of my process. It's like if I do something in pen and it doesn't look good, that's you know a temporary problem,
Yeah.
but the quickness of reproducing something else is like kind of my jump point. It's it eliminates like um there's that saying of like trying to fail fast,
Mm,
and to get to a certain amount of success you
mm.
kind of have to do things over and over again, and the more that the more that I learn about my mistakes, the easier it is to kind of see what I actually want to kind of put on the paper.
Oh shit. That's pretty crazy because like in a way, like you like not that there's like a certain step order of doing things, but at least in terms of like how I work, like y- your skill set allows you to skip the first step for me. Like I always start with pencil or graphite,
Yeah.
but like you're able to like with your again your experience and your confidence with the ink work, like you can be like, nah, fuck that, I can just start with the ink and I don't need to rough draft with a pencil, I'll just go right in. And I'm just addressing how that's pretty remarkable in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I have a sample here of I
Okay,
don't know if you
cool.
can see this. Here's one of my images. It's
Okay, nice.
of a muddy dog coming out of the water or whatever. Um, but yeah, like it's some of my artwork can be so uh like I guess the energy that I bring to it is so like scrappy, that it kind of brings the style of like it's okay if it looks like that because it's just that's the process. Like, um, it's okay if it looks bad. I can do something else, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I it is interesting, like, you know, using pencil does take a certain amount of um, like detailed thinking, um, because there is like you're working through a process with the pencil, but I guess yeah, it's just different styles of working. My working is like more stamps. That's quicker.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah.
still, like there's still right. It's not just like as easy as that though. Like you yourself still have a process, but I just think I just find it, sort of remarkable that you can just like kind of just again, whatever the objective is, whatever you're trying to capture, you're able to start off with the pen. Like so much anxiety goes into my work when I start. So like,
Yeah.
you know, so that's why I'm so like, oh, that's fucking awesome, man. Like, you can work that way. Like you can that's how you operate. So I think that's really cool. But so like you showed the puppy there and um maybe I should pull up your page because I was gonna ask, when you're not doing caricature, like is caricature art, like what percentage of that is like in all of your art? Like do you mostly do caricatures or do you find yourself also, like how often do you find yourself doing the like other stuff, whether it's like because you had like you had like landscape paintings and you had like that puppy and you had some fan art and so like how often do you find yourself working on art like that?
Um, I guess I would say probably of the work that I do now, like just in my mode right now, I'd probably say 75% of my artwork is doing caricatures. And
Okay.
then 25% is which I do um want to do more not caricature stuff. There's
Okay.
a freedom to mixing things up a bit,
Yeah.
getting into different styles and stuff like that. Um, like, where is it? I did this one a while ago, but this is like a portrait of Pope Francis.
Okay.
But it's a watercolor, and I never. It's I guess you could say this is kind of more cartoony. I have no idea.
No,
Um,
it's like I wouldn't say cartoony.
well, I mean I was trying to do something more portrait esque, but
Right.
it's um, not exact. But
I think it's
yeah,
just the more detail you add in there, the more layers of watercolor and maybe some line work, then like the more it becomes more realistic or lifelike. But I wouldn't say it's cartoony. It's just it just doesn't have all those required um details in there.
yeah, I
Good though. It's still good.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just part of I think trying to get out of my comfort zone
Mm.
because as I said, like if that's my process, I kind of have to maybe take things a little bit more seriously. you know,
Yeah.
put more time into my artwork instead of doing stuff that's mass produced, quick things.
Yeah, I mean, I resonate with that because like I always argue or not argue, but I always say like I don't want to be known for just like right now I'm doing a lot of fan art, so like I don't want to be known as that type of artist that just creates fan art and pop culture art. Like
Mm,
I have my personal art series that I work on frequently, but yeah, I think it just depends on the mode that you're in, too. Like this is just the phase I'm in. Like I'm just busting out like the fan stuff right now. And then
yeah,
I'll be able so yeah, I mean it just depends like what gear you're in. But it's good that you're aware, like you want to get out of your comfort zone and do a little more of the realistic watercolor paintings or whatever the medium may be at the time. So at least you have that self-awareness of like, yeah, I want to get away from the caricatures for a bit. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, like creating like what do you call it? Fast producing or what is it?
I mean, I don't know. I just said mass produced, but
Oh,
yeah,
mass produce. Sorry, but like but because they're well, I guess my mind went to that because just because like doing the local markets and a lot of the vendors are like the makers
Hmm.
as they call themselves. So yeah, sometimes I find myself like wanting to be able to like just make something real quick and easy. And it's
Yeah,
kind of hard to do that with our craft. Like our shit like doesn't, and not that I'm saying that those vendors like their work doesn't require a lot of time, but there is like, I mean, I mean, you've been out there, you see like, like their whole table is just full of fucking product, and then
yeah,
you come to like artists like us, and like there are artists that have like a shit ton of like prints and stuff, but again, it's just like we can't mass produce the way they do, um, especially like creatively, in my opinion.
yeah. So I don't know all the events that you usually go to. Like, what do you do? Like annual events or some type of market that's been like a good portion of the day where you can have time enough to do like a commission? Like, have you ever done a commission at a market?
So I used to do that before we moved down here. And I used to do that at not at conventions, but at like like flea markets, which
Hmm.
is basically kind of like it's like a pop-up market, but on just on a bigger scale. Um, but yeah, I mean, I used to do I call them on-site commissions, and then it's limited. Like you can either do like a 5x7 up to maybe a 9x12, and you know if you want ink, that's going to cost a few more bucks. If you want color, that's going to cost a few more bucks. So there's sort of like, you know, there's like levels to that. But yeah, I mean, I used to do that quite often actually.
Okay.
That like and that's certainly, and I tried offering that here when I first started doing markets, and
Hmm.
no one was having it. So I'm just like, ugh. And then I discovered you actually. So I'm like, oh, interesting, because like he's a caricature artist. So there's somebody at the time it was pop up at the Diamonds. I'm like, oh, so there is somebody that does technically on site commissions. And I mean, the first time we spoke, I think I was trying to pick your brain about it, but at least like I don't know, like I want to do that. I want to be able to do that again and offer that again. But I think just because of the scene, the market scene, which I would like to actually get into for a bit, like I just think the crowd for these pop-up markets aren't really down for that. I mean, that's just my experience. I mean, obviously you've done it at pop-up, so you've been able to pull it off. You were doing it at Print Fest as well, right? So like
Yeah.
but I guess it just depends on the type of art, maybe. I don't know. But I feel like my prices may have scared people away. But yeah,
Um,
I still have to experiment, I guess. We'll see.
yeah. Um, I think last time we were talking at Printfest, I was asking you about doing conventions because I feel like that's more of a kind of a standard place for commissions, like
That's
live
an
commissions.
artist alley type of thing for sure. Yeah, I'm super aware of that, and I get so yeah, I get asked a lot about that. And again, it's just like conventions are so expensive. They're just not in my budget right now.
Mhm.
Um, and at the same time, it's weird because like, so when I was doing the on-site commissions back in Jersey, it was a nice mix of sometimes it was fan art, and then a lot of times it was just drawing portraits for people. Like parents would ask me to draw portraits of their kids or something, and like I kind of have like a limit, like if it's like just two, like I did one with two of his kids, this gentleman, and the one thing I definitely would have to work on is my timing, because sometimes I get hyper focused. I'm sure you can relate to this to a degree. Is like it's out something I would spend like almost an hour on some commissions because I'm like I'm fucking getting those hatches in there. If I'm throwing in some cross
Yeah,
hatching, and then
getting
like the
them.
next thing you know, it's like a legit like commission as opposed to like a fun event commission.
Mhm.
Um, Not that I would get any bad reviews about it, like taking too long. I mean, like, it always resulted in great fashion. But my wife would be like, "Yo, you gotta hurry up, man." It's like you're putting all this detail in there, and underpricing it. But yeah, it was a nice mix of like, yeah, sometimes I would do some fan art, and then I would actually say it's probably like 60-40, like 40% fan art and then 60% um just like personalized, like I'm drawing people's pets or relatives or like even just like drawing somebody as like um a character. So um but for the most part they were just sketches, so I didn't have to worry too much about ink and using other material. So I want to say like, yeah, I would spend at least like 35 minutes to like almost an hour on a commission. But again, it's like, sometimes it's what they're asking for. Like, so it really depends
Yeah.
on some of those things. But yeah, conventions are just, they're like $200 tables, maybe $300 tables now. Like I've looked into some of the conventions up in Jersey that that I would like to, because like before all this, actually, when I first started off selling art, I was like a zombie artist basically. So it all really started from drawing clients as zombies. Like I would zombify them. That was sort of my brand. So it was
Okay.
zombified. And then and a friend just kind of convinced me to like start doing that to make money and then to post about it and try to do events. And then it started going from, because I would try a couple and I wouldn't really sell anything. I'm like, oh, like who's gonna buy random zombies? Then I started zombifying like video game characters, cartoon characters, comic book characters. People started coming in for that. And then just after a while, I was like, all right, I don't want to be the zombie guy anymore. And then here we are. Um,
Yeah.
but at that time, people were like, oh, you should do Monster Mania and like all these like, like these like horror conventions and stuff. And
Mhm.
there was one in like Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It was like $300 for like a what was described as like a small space. It could have been like a 6 foot space maybe, which is
Yeah.
like it is small, like especially like an indoor convention, and you got like all these other vendors there. Um, yeah, it's just like that's a lot, man. And I certainly didn't have, and I still don't have the confidence to like be like, yeah, I can make that back. I was like, nah, I don't know, man. Because when it comes to fan art, I tend to draw just like what I'm into or what I grew up on. And
Mhm.
then, just fortunate that people gravitate towards that and buy that stuff too. Um, but yeah, but you so like when it comes to events, like you do mostly like festivals than the markets.
Uh, yeah. So, um, I as when I first got to Richmond, one of the first markets that I did was the pop-up RVA, where we met each other,
Hmm.
essentially, right?
Yeah,
Um, and that was kind of a slow start for me, um,
same.
to kind of get things going. But I continued with it because I saw it as a at least a staple where I could say like, oh, I'm gonna be here for the weekend. So like people who wanted to reach me, I'd be like, oh, that's where I'm
It's like you
going.
know where to find me Saturday, Sunday. Well, at
Exactly.
least, yeah.
Um,
So you still do those pop-ups, the pop-up RVA ones?
um, I haven't done one in a while.
Okay.
Um,
I've been curious for, I mean, you know why, but I've been curious if you've been still attending those.
yeah, I think I think I mean they were good for what they were. I think I just found for me personally that uh, I think there's probably some other markets that I'd like to explore. Um, So I this coming up in October, I'm doing the Veggie Fest
Oh
in
yeah.
Berkeley.
Okay.
Uh, and um hopefully I'm gonna make like some type of vegan vegetarian template if people want it, something to appeal to that crowd. Um, but have you done any of the, I think it's called Creative Friends Market,
No, I never heard of it.
creative something? Um,
No, we have to look into that.
yeah, they have a Halloween market. Um, I think it's at night, so like 4 to 8 on Halloween. They're doing a market.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I'm still kind of exploring still what's out there, and what crowd kind of works best for me. Um, but yeah, it is a process, because I think one of the things with the pop-up market was that we both couldn't control or anyone could control was the weather.
God, that fucking
If it's
weather, man.
bad,
Yeah.
it's not good. So,
Dude, yeah.
uh,
There
do
was
you?
something that a vendor said to me. Actually, this the when it just came back, when like the weather was like really bad. Well, what was it at the end of April, I think? Well, one vendor said that really stuck with me, and I don't mean to like disparage or anything, but this is just what they said, and it just stuck with me. But they're like, because when the weather was getting really challenging, this dude was like, he started packing up early, and then I saw he went to go talk to Brian, and he came back.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm like, are you? He's like, are you gonna get like your like a percent back? Because and he was like, no. He's like, it's like Brian prays for bad weather, and I'm like, oh no. And whether that's true or not, but that's just like, I don't know, because like I've talked to other vendors that have had for whatever reasons they just had bad exchanges with him and or bad interactions with him. So I'm like, oh, I mean, because like for me, like it's been friendly. So, but yeah, so I mean, everyone's different, but yeah, like sometimes I like I'll just say I prefer doing the diamond. Even though I never done the park, but just from what I saw, I'm like, yeah, if I'm gonna do pop up RVA, it'll be at the diamond for sure. Like even though that weather can be super challenging, at least like I'll just say like we kind of know we have an idea on like when we should start getting in on that scene, and it's certainly when it's summertime. Like well, I'll say that's my approach when I decide I want to do a couple of pop up RVAs, like I'm gonna wait till it's legit summertime, instead of just waiting for spring and starting to book as many spring events. Especially when it comes to outdoor events, because spring is yeah,
It's
man, we were yeah.
um, I would like to add that I've uh, in regards to the pop-up, like I feel like uh, when talking with Brian, the manager, I think he had a great vision of what that could have become or what it is and it's becoming. But I think it's like, as I said, like something that is just out of everyone's control is,
It's the
as a,
elements.
a customer and a vendor, like the weather is an issue.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
no one wants to be there when it's the hurricane outside. Um, and I've done the park markets as well, um, a few of them, and I just feel like, yeah, sometimes it's just, I don't know, sometimes it's just the crowd that doesn't connect. So
Yeah, I just think it's the venue too. I mean, there's so much there already,
yeah,
business. So I really think like I just think he should, my suggestion would to find like another place if possible, because there's already enough going on over there. It's like almost like trying to hold a pop-up at a Dave and Buster's.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
It's like, and it's just, they got their entertainment already. Like, there's so much entertainment that they're gonna forget about the talent. So like, I would
Yeah.
just like, you know, but yeah, um, yeah, man. It's funny like talking about like outdoor events and trying to brave the weather because I do the first Fridays with the Moon Market, RVA Moon Market.
Mhm.
Um, and again, like, there's been so many times where we got rained out. Well, not rained out, but because of the incoming weather, they would cancel it and push all the well, not push the vendors, but reschedule the vendors for the next first Friday. And but for some reason, I guess just because when those events really do happen, it's always been a great success for me.
Mhm.
So that's why I tend to stick with them. With pop up, it's like I feel I have to be as strategic as possible. Even though it's like you're trying to fighting the weather. It's like, I don't know. We'll see if the weather if it's gonna be cloudy or sunny or whatever, or if it's gonna rain or lightly rain. Um, but
Is
I've told you about like Charlottesville, right? Because they always got like festivals going on over there.
no. You go out to Charlottesville for
Oh
markets
yeah.
and stuff?
Oh yeah, because so they do. There's a couple of annual festivals that they hold there at Ix Art Park. It's called IX Art Park, and
Okay.
one of them that I try to do. I always apply for is just it's just called Charlottesville Arts Festival.
Mhm.
Um, and it's a whole weekend. It's a full weekend thing, and I'm telling you, like I'm definitely the most money I make is in Charlotte when I do the festivals there, and there's like another one done by the same organizer. Her name is Eva, um, but it's called Faith Festival, and same thing. It's a whole weekend, and yeah, like I just like when I go through like my records and like on like how much I've been making this year, like the months that had like the most money earnings was because I was doing the festivals in Charlottesville, and
Oh, nice.
I have very like I feel confident that you would do very well there with your caricature artistry there. I think people would love it because trying to think, with my experience over there, I don't think I've spotted a caricature artist per se. Like they always and what's great with those events is that they have these sort of like offerings of like, you can do these scheduled demos throughout the event. Like you can like pick out a time slot,
Mhm.
or you can do a whole demo just like at your tent, and you get a discount for that.
Okay, I remember.
Because it is a full weekend festival, so it's going to be obviously pricier than doing a regular pop-up market, right?
Yeah,
But I'm trying to think how much. If I can look it up right now, I'll tell you. Because I think like a full weekend, like if you're paying full price, it's probably I think it's like close to 300.
yeah, that sounds
But
right.
I think with the because I always when I apply, I always tell them like, yeah, I'm gonna demo at my table all day. And I'm bad at percentages, but I certainly do pay less. So, oh no, I didn't include the fees, only the earnings because that's all that matters. But it's a good percentage discount. I'll say it's certainly more affordable, and if you're willing to drive back and forth, because that's what we do, it's like an hour from
Yeah.
us.
Mhm.
We're just like fuck it, we'll just drive back and forth. They have like a overnight security, so you can leave your tent set up and all of that as long as you have walls.
Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, when you have that factored in, it's like it's certainly affordable and worth it. Um, but yeah, I mean, the next time, I mean, if you want, if you'd like, I can always just like give you a shout out or forward forward the announcements when they start announcing like the festivals.
Okay.
Or and honestly, actually, I would just when you get a chance, just follow IX Art Park, because that's like their because I don't even know how to describe it, because it's like it's a great venue. It is a space for events like that. But there's a restaurant bar there, and
Oh, so it's yeah.
they have like this cool like inside. It's like a I don't want to call it a maze, but there's like this thing you can walk through. It's called inside what into the looking glass, and like you just see like all this cool installation, and like more there's like more art inside there that you can like walk through. It's really cool.
That's
But yeah,
awesome.
like that's like the spot for like all types of like art events and festivals. Um so yeah, then so that you have more options. Um
Yeah. I'll have to check that out. That sounds cool.
for sure. So let's revisit the topic of generative AI. Aside, I mean, if you have other things you'd like to sort of like express your opinions on in regards to AI art, like I'll just say, what's your general opinions on AI
Um,
art and outside of art?
I think I guess I feel like there probably needs to be some type of regulation about it. I mean, I guess there's oh there's whatever some type of rules about copyright and stuff like that now, but I feel like AI is bringing up that issue where we kind of have to readdress, you know, what's appropriate, whose rights, like property rights and stuff like that, because as I said before, like it can get really messy on, who owns what.
Yeah,
Uh, I honestly haven't had much experience with kind of what's out there, or how people in so many ways use AI art. I'm not totally familiar with it, but yeah, I think there just needs to come a time where we, as a collective, make some type of regulation about it, because yeah, with great power comes great responsibility.
that's right. Hell yeah. So yeah, it sounds like and I feel like we kind of established that in the beginning too. I feel like we're kind of on the same page with that, and yeah, right. There there needs to be some regulation. There needs to be some like sort of like safeguards, right? When like you spot something skeptical, and all those things are in development too, and I feel like that's that's not much of a discussion right now. A lot of it is the fear mongering of AI taking over jobs, and even just like fucking with people. Cause I don't know if you've ever heard, but there have been like reportings of, like I know like one of them was like a grandparent, uh like would get like a phone call from their grandchild asking for help and asking for money, and then come to find out that was just like an AI bot, just trying to get your money and just like
Yeah,
shit like that. Like I worry about shit like that because I mean, I don't know about you, but I've had like whether it's people like just scammers, but I've had like these accounts approach me and try to scam me, whether
yeah,
it's bots or just people that are pieces of shits. But
yeah,
it's a real concern. So like I just like to because like I've had this conversation with many people and they're like, yeah, it's like it's whatever. And I'm like, like especially when it comes from a parent, I'm like, you're a parent, like this will become a concern eventually, especially if you're introducing devices to your child. Um, but to kind of go back, yeah, there are regulations. There are these things to detect when AI is being used. Like I don't know the names of these types of softwares or the companies that are doing this, but yeah, they have ways to detect when papers that are written, if they're written by AI or not.
Mhm.
And now I don't have a report in front of me, but I did come across some headlines saying that you can't copyright AI art simply because it is not man-made. So there is like a small win there for us in regards to art making. So yeah, because there was an artist that I mentioned it before. There was an artist that submitted AI art to a contest and won. The dude won.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. Do I have it? Um. Oh, so I don't think they like revoked the award. I mean, I would have to go through the article, but they're just stating that like even his art, he can't copyright that, because it was done by AI. So
Yeah.
I like to bring up that part of the discussion instead of just fear mongering, because I do that a little bit. I'll fear monger, but then I'll try to like uplift, uplift the topic. Would be like, well, there's hope, there's progress, but it's rarely a discussion. So but it's just wild because then you hear about the music too. Um, like I know, what was it, Drake? There was like there was a song made by AI that was like a Drake song, and there's like other rappers. Like I actually talked about this on a podcast, a solo podcast where there are apps for making like hip hop music with AI. It's like it's wild. Like for some reason that genre was like kind of like the main focus, and I think it maybe because of the complexities of like, when we're talking about rappers, we're talking about lyricists, and like when it comes to lyricism, there's like double and triple entendres and wordplay and this and that. So I think they were trying to maybe experiment with like how AI can imitate that, let alone like just create that.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's all fascinating in my opinion. But again, right? It's like that's a lot of fucking power there. It's gonna make a lot of things squirrely. And even with these like safeguards and these things kind of like detecting it, that alone too kind of makes everything even much more. It's like we're like gonna be like walking on eggshells because it's like, oh, can we do this? Because or like with the AI, or I don't know. It does get like pretty convoluted.
I for one, yeah, I've seen, I haven't seen any of the like hip hop music, but I was on a search for I like Billie Eilish,
Okay.
and they did an AI cover of the Radiohead song "Creep" with
Mhm.
Billie Eilish, and it was pretty like legit. It didn't, there's always something like a little funky or like a
Yeah.
little off that you're like, oh, this is not her.
Like the
Um,
cadence might be off or something,
yeah,
or
yeah, it's a
like or just like a tonality of something. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, one rapper said, I think it was oh, what's his name? It's like Mike something. He's like really Killer Mike.
okay,
He was like saying like, at least in regards to hip hop with the, AI creating hip hop, he was just like there's no soul in it. Like that's like the thing. It's like it's impressive that like sure like wow this AI really sounds like Eminem or whoever, but it's just like but like you were saying with Billie Eilish, it's like there's something missing, and it's like I think that's like the soul, right? Like not to get all like woo woo or anything, but it's just like but it's true, and I think that also applies to even visual arts. Like there's just something about it, that AI lacks, and I think that's what it is. I think it's the soul. It's like the entity behind the art
yeah.
or behind the creator of the art.
Do you this is kind of a side topic, but do you ever watch uh it's called Black Mirror?
Nah, man, fuck that. Just because it's too crazy. I've heard enough about it to be like, I don't want to get freaked out, man. That shit will fuck with my head. I'm aware that I'm aware of how good it is and like how captivating it is.
Yeah.
But when I hear about like, again, it's just like, yeah, man, we're getting there. We're getting pretty close. Give us like maybe 5, 10 more years, and we'll be there most likely. Like that shit, yeah. I no, I'm good.
There's there is this episode featuring Aaron Paul or Jesse from Breaking Bad. Uh and it's an episode um about uh kind of like what we were talking about before, like similar to that, what is it called? Neuralink,
Oh yeah,
uh,
yeah.
where they have avatars. So they're like in a space shuttle, and the story is they go to Earth in these avatars, but they're like, robots essentially.
Mhm.
It's not their real body. And it's kind of these moral issues of like, when you come into this robot body, like how human are you? Um,
Mm.
and your personality shines through that, but we always have these like uh, mechanical ways of our behavior. And so I also think it's like it's interesting, this rise in AI technology, um, kind of seeing that like as it progresses, like how human can robots be, and also like how robotic we can be as well.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes our daily life, we just kind of go through the motions type thing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, right. It's wild. It's wild. Yeah, like we're just like machines and human flesh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Divine. Um, yeah, I mean, like not to like toot my horn or anything, but like that's definitely the thing that my personal art drives people in because like I mean, yeah, people often ask me about Black Mirror and like other like anything related to simulation
Hmm.
and Matrix, like all that stuff, because my Tech Utopia series is very much sort of about that. But at least like, well, at least like with mine, the messaging is like the disassociation from our society, from humanity, ultimately. Like that's the message I try to push with my work. But yeah, I mean, it's all like pretty much correlated. It's all like almost the same thing. I just like would like to prevent getting to that like rotting state of humanity, And it's just like, and the way that our technology works would be, and everything is wireless, and you got the Oculus, and then the the development of Neuralink, like that shit kind of freaks me out. And like, I'm not gonna be able to do anything about it, but it's certainly gonna bum me out if majority of the people I associate with are all about the Neuralink, and I'm gonna be like one of the black sheeps because like, I'm too I'm just too paranoid about what I'm gonna become of it, if that makes sense, you know.
Yeah. Um, I think it's always good to have those balance and getting to your roots and being grounded, not to you know pulled blinded with the Oculus in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, because like because like our social media, right? It does allow us to be able to do amazing things, like being able to connect with people that you can't like here, right? Like we can do this right now, and that's awesome, And I've had international guests on the podcast, and that's awesome. But there, it comes to a point where it's like, what's the phrase? I think they call it parasocial or something like that. Like it's great to be able to connect this way, but then when that's all your interaction is, like that does something to you. It certainly takes something away from you too, because then like when you have opportunities to be present with somebody, you could you could turn out to be fucking awkward as hell because you're just so used to like communicating with people through the screen via
Yeah.
text or or just sending memes, right? Like, or in using emojis instead of like now just like I always say, I stole this from Joe Rogan, but I would always say that like podcasting seems to be like the new or the more real form of social media because we're actually conversating and we're not just sending links and videos and shit to each other. We're actually doing this. We're speaking and we're able to like get the context of like what we're trying to articulate here. Oh my god, my cat's like getting away. But like, because like I'll have conversations with people online and they're just blowing up my inbox, with these like short messages, and I'm trying to articulate my shit, right? And
Yeah.
like, I don't know, that's a pet peeve for me. Like, you know, if like they can see on their end that I'm typing something, but they're sending me like 10 separate short messages. And then to the point where like the thing I want to send is like it doesn't even apply anymore because we're on a different point. And it's just like, oh, I was like, this is why I need to FaceTime you or just get you on the phone. Have a real discussion. Like you can't, that's why when people like, keyboard warriors and people that like to really lash out in the comments, it's like you would find yourself in so much more in agreements if you actually had a discussion. Even like a agree or disagree situation, at least like you can you're more likely to find yourself in that if you actually had a conversation. But like you can easily just turn people into enemies through your just commenting or just text, right? Like
Yeah.
it's and
Yeah.
go ahead.
I mean, yeah, I totally agree. When you're talking face to face to someone, there's so much more information that is given, you know, consciously and subconsciously, or body language or facial expressions. Like there's so much that it's like, uh, I consider it. It's like when you're having a conversation with someone, there's a dance, and like I I agree. Like when you have that ability to just send a text immediately, it's there. There's it gets very confusing with the footsteps, because it's like there's just always the opportunity to project and not listen through text,
Mhm.
and we always need that space to kind of hear each other.
Yeah, like even during this, like I've I've interrupted you a couple times, but like there was still like that acknowledgement of like, oh, my bad. Finish your point, or
Yeah.
you can't do that in text because like it's just yeah, I'm afraid I'll get too lost in that ramble. But so yeah, when people it's I find it funny when people they always say like, oh, I'm an introvert. um like I believe there are introverts, but I also like to believe a lot of people that may believe are introverted are actually just ambiverts. And apparently, like every time I bring that up, or a lot of times when I bring that up, people aren't even aware that an ambivert is a thing. Are you aware of like what an ambivert is?
Is that both?
Bingo.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I'll even say this, right? That like before COVID, I'm such a extrovert in that way. Like I mean, you felt the energy when we were present together. Like, I'm very, yeah, I'm outgoing. Like you get everything face value.
Yeah.
But I have my moments where like I need my time alone to decompress. So I do say, because of COVID and the quarantine and everything, I've become more of an ambivert. Like I now require those alone times.
Mhm.
But I do like to believe people that do think they're strictly introverted. I do believe that they are rather ambivert, because when you see them like socially interacting and you see them glow and like they're just like they're loving what's going on. It's like, yeah, you love being around people. Like, don't
Yeah.
lie. Like, we all need that. Sure, like everyone's different. Like, some people can only handle so much, but like ultimately, we need each other. We need to be around each other. We can't just like, have holograms replace us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
man.
I would agree with you. I feel like there's a lot of people who would, either describe themselves as shy or introverted that because of their life so far haven't found their people, that they don't feel like they can be comfortable around all people, but it's really like, no, your life up to this point has just been like a bunch of shitty, trashy people,
Yeah.
like who don't let you be yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's just yeah, it's just a very interesting thing to observe. Um, but yeah, crazy world.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh man. Well, I appreciate the extra time you invested here because I'm pretty sure I told you like, yeah, podcasts generally I generally tell people it's like about 90 minutes, but in reality, it's like when these things are going so well, time flies really fast.
Mhm.
And I mean, yeah, we're close to like 2 hours. So like I really appreciate you sitting down with me for this longer than you signed up for, really.
Okay. I
But
mean, yeah, it's been great talking with you. I appreciate it.
yeah, I'm thank you. And especially this being your first podcast experience, if I've been able to make it a good experience for you, that really means a lot to me. Um, but so now that we're sort of getting close to the end here, I do like to have this. I like to present this segment that I frequently do with guests and even by myself, where I provide some words of inspiration. Um, so I always like to, because with the AI conversation, it can kind of like, it's like, this is kind of serious almost. So I always try to enlighten the ending of the podcast with an inspirational quote. Um, so I hope this one is inspirational or insightful in some way. This is a quote by Jean-Luc Godard, and he says, "Sometimes reality is too complex. Fiction gives it form."
Hmm, interesting.
And I actually picked this one out because I really wouldn't be able to articulate it right now, but it felt like it sort of correlates with caricature art. You know,
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Um, what is your interpretation of the fiction form thing?
huh? Okay, didn't see that coming. I mean, applying to art or just like life in general.
I guess life in general, make it broad.
Ooh, okay. I might need just a minute to troubleshoot here. My brain is like, huh. Let me read this quote one more time. Sometimes reality is too complex. Fiction gives it form. So, with fiction. All right, this is just what's coming to mind. This is probably not going to answer your question, so I'll apologize in advance. But when life does get too complex, that's when you need to like separate yourself. And you were talking earlier about being grounded. I think that's when it's time to like quiet things down and just separate yourself from all the chaos. So when reality is getting too crazy, too complex, that's when you need to step away and just be with your thoughts. It could just be whether you're just thinking of memories or just like creating your own entertainment. Uh,
Yeah.
you can replace that with fiction. Like I made a post. Was it this morning about when I was live streaming, and when you live stream and you're kind of waiting for people to, this is probably not going to apply to your question at all, but when people, you're waiting for people to like join in, and it's like, all right, well, when you post the live stream, people are going to see like everything from the get-go. So you wouldn't want it to be boring. So you kind of just like do whatever, to whether you're just occupying yourself to until someone joins in, or whatever. So I'm a firm believer of like creating your own entertainment. And
Mm.
anytime you feel something when you're in a lull or whatever, because I'll say this, right, to give you a little insight, more insight about my personality. I'm a type that I don't like quietness that much. So like, especially when there's other, well, yeah, especially when there's other people in the room, I try to find opportunities to like get a reaction, or like particularly a laugh out of somebody. But even myself, like I find myself making weird noises, getting into like just starts breaking out into like random songs. Like sometimes I just do shit just to fill the quiet air. And I don't think that applies to your question, but
Well, yeah, I
there's
I,
definitely levels to that.
I like your answer because I mean I think it's I was just thinking about it and it's kind of ironic because it's like when you know life can be too complex and the way that we're doing this is like it's always just like storytelling and kind of creating your own thing. Um, because yeah, I think you're right. Like we always kind of have to have that sense of groundedness. And when things get hard, it's just like, let's just keep things simple, tell yourself a good story and go from there.
Right. And sort of piggybacking on it, like basically it's like the world is so chaotic that like it's almost like it's a pleasure or a treasure to be able to sit down and daydream. Remember daydreaming used to be bad, like in class?
Yeah.
Like there's so many distractions now where you can like, I don't know, maybe I'm just gonna speak on my behalf, but it's just like there's so much shit going on. Like when's the last time you caught yourself daydreaming, right? I don't know,
I
but
don't,
that's what I think.
there's a lot of people who don't give themselves enough breaks. It's just constant going all the time.
Yeah, go go go, right?
Yeah.
It's wild, but yeah, man, dude, I love this conversation that we had, man. I really appreciate your time once again. Before we really wrap this up, is there anything you want to plug? All your socials, your main website will be in the description. Also, like for the listeners or watchers, Matt does have a YouTube channel as well. It's the same as his Instagram handle, Caricatures by Matt. Right? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So, anything you want to plug, like events or anything?
Um, I guess I mean, the next event that I'm doing is the Veggie Fest,
Yeah.
which I'm really.
When is that?
It is Saturday, the 7th of October. I think it's from 12 to 6. It's in Bird Park,
Oh, okay.
um,
Nice.
or around there. I'm not exactly sure the exact location, but yeah, I will be there drawing caricatures. Also have some other art there. Um, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Uh, yeah, my website is caricatures by Matt, and then yeah, I'm trying to work on my YouTube channel. That is a work in progress. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm trying to also follow your inspiration of what you do as well. So
Uh,
I'm
Always
gonna,
happy to help in any way.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if what I mean, it feels like what I'm doing as well. All right, I won't spend too much time on this subject, but I did apply to a like an online academy for creatives to, I mean, essentially be able to live off of their art. And I'm trying to utilize the lessons and the tools provided from that academy to my social media. And so far, there's definitely been some results. Um, So there's definitely progress. But yeah, man, I was gonna say, like, yeah, feel free to look at my content if you're noticing certain things that appear to be working, like, yeah, fucking copy and paste, bro. Just try it out and see if it works out for you.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be like, yeah, just keep making reels or whatever, because like it's different for everybody. um but yeah, I mean, feel free to take notes, or just like, yeah, if there's any specific things you want to pick my brain about, yeah, hit me up, brother.
I'd love
Don't
to talk
hesitate.
more about it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that is all, folks. Thank you for tuning in. And again, if you enjoy this content and you want to, again, you want to just find us on the social medias, check out the links below. But if you enjoy this content, especially, listeners, if you want to check out the video, all of that will be on my YouTube channel. So please like, subscribe, hit all those buttons, ring the notification bell, all the good stuff. Share with your friends, and stay safe, stay healthy, and stay driven. And we shall catch you all on the next one. Peace out, everybody. Cue in the music.